With the Shadow Lu and Bison out of the picture, things should be calm, right? Yet, they never will for the fighters of Street Fighter. Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where we take trade paperbacks and single issues and we break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then review dramatically back to you. All alterations of the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. It began with the rise of Gil as the chosen one of the Illuminati. They chanted, "Hail the chosen one! Hail the chosen one! Our lives for Lord Gil!" Guile knew that this was the start of something, and he reported that the society was everywhere, asking the question, how do you fight a centuries-old secret organization? Just when the army thought they were getting closer, their agent on the inside vanished, and they haven't had any contact with him. Luckily, Gibson hands them all of the clues that they managed to get, so they start looking for the Illuminati and their agent on the inside. Their clues lead them to Ryu's dojo, and on the way, Gibson asks Guile about the fighters from the tournaments. Guile explains that Ken has gotten married and has a son. Chun-Li has mellowed out and is doing humanitarian work, while Cammy got a promotion and she leads an MI6 Special Forces unit. He has no idea about the other fighters, but they have kept an eye on the big players in the Shadow Loop. Sagat went back to training, while Balrog and Vega split up what was left of the organization and they went legit. Bison is dead, so that's one less thing to worry about. As they get to Ryu's dojo, Guile opens up the doors and he sees Sakura standing there. She turns around with a fire in her eyes. "What do you want with Ryu?" And she decides to welcome them with a Hadouken, knocking both Guile and Gibson down. Guile gets back up asking what's wrong with Sakura, and she replies by bounding out at him and throwing punches. "Don't you want us to help, Sakura? Leave Ryu to me!" Guile then flips her to the ground as she uppercuts him and slams her fist down on him before getting him into a chokehold. "The person who's gonna find Ryu and the losers who took him is me!" Gibson gets back up and fires a taser at Sakura, but she sees it coming and kicks the taser out of Gibson's hands before throwing Gibson into a wall. Then Sakura runs off yelling to Guile not to forget what she said. "Ryu and his captors are mine!" Guile watches her leave wondering what just happened. Meanwhile, Ken is eating lunch at a restaurant in Hong Kong with his family. This place is owned by Yun and Yang ever since Gen gave it to them. They approach Ken to tell him that they are honored that he would be eating at their establishment. Then they show him their amazing fighting skills by removing a problem customer. Impressed with the fight, Ken tells them that they should have a friendly match next time he is in Hong Kong, before getting a phone call from Guile. Guile explains that he is in the military infirmary in Japan, where Gibson is recovering, and wants to know if Ken knows what's going on with Ryu and Sakura. Sakura was acting weird. Ken is completely in the dark, so Guile has to explain everything. And Ken points out that Honda and Dan Hibiki are both in Japan, and they might have had more contact with Ryu. But just as Guile is getting ready to move out, he sees Alex standing in the doorway, demanding answers right now. He moves in and begins slugging it out with Guile, and the only thing Guile wants to know is, what's going on? Alex keeps hitting him, demanding to know where Tom is. Guile begins countering Alex, telling him that he can't tell him because he doesn't know. But Alex doesn't believe it and begins throwing even more punches. "That's bull! You know, you have to!" He gets Guile to the ground and then leaps into the air to stomp on Guile's head, but Guile rolls out of the way. Eventually, Guile gets in a swift kick, throwing Alex against the wall, and Alex finally calms down. Guile explains that Tom was the inside man on the Illuminati, and they lost track of him 2 weeks ago. That's exactly what Guile is doing right now, looking for Tom. So once this is explained, Alex tells Guile that he's gonna join in this manhunt. Gibson tries to argue, but Guile tells her it's fine. Alex knows Tom better than anybody else, so he can probably help with this. The whole group makes their way to Edmund Honda's Suma School to see if he has any answers. He doesn't have any information. He hasn't spoken to Ryu in years. But once Guile mentions that they're gonna go looking for Dan next, Honda says, what luck? Because Dan is the chef of the sumo school. Luckily, Dan knows exactly what happened. He ended up cooking for Honda because no one would come to his school for training. But he was still spying on Ryu in his school to see why anyone would rather go to Ryu's school instead of Dan's. It was then that he saw Bison landing a chopper in front of Ryu's dojo. Ryu asked Bison about the whole being dead thing, and Bison told him, "Being dead is relative." Then he told Ryu that he was there to bring Ryu to the secret society, even if it meant bringing Ryu in by force. Sakura ran in to defend her master, and in a few swift moves, she dropped each and every one of the people she was fighting. Then she stood there ready to fight against the man himself, Bison. But Ryu told her to back off. Bison was his. Bison started by attacking with his signature slide, but Ryu easily dodged it, telling Bison that he was getting old. They went back and forth, with Bison not being able to get a hit in on Ryu, and eventually Ryu dropped Bison with a Shoryuken! That's when the man that caused Guile to send Tom in came out to find out what's going on. Yorin stepped out of the helicopter, stripped his suit off, and he began to power up. But still, Ryu was able to deflect his moves with ease and able to follow up with his own moves, even getting off a Hadouken, which Yorin reflected back at him. While it looked as though Ryu was about to win, Bison took his chance to attack Ryu's student, Sakura, by grabbing her by the throat. Ryu saw this and was momentarily distracted, which was the opening Yorin needed to finish off Ryu. He threw him into a nearby hut, and Sakura watched as her master was defeated and and carried off by the secret society. Dan explained that after that fight, he followed the chopper on his bicycle, and he found out the location that they carried Ryu to. But when he told Sakura, she told Dan not to bother. She would save Ryu on her own. She will be stronger. Out of respect, he left her to it and walked off. But now that she's missing and in trouble, maybe it's time for him to break that vow and aid Guile. Meanwhile, Sakura went to a cave insisting the whole thing was her fault, and it is there that she could feel the power, feel the way to save her master through Akuma. We will be back next week with part 2 of this series, plus a lot of bonus stories that are happening in this comic book, like short stories about individual fights and origins. If you want to keep up to date, then follow us on Twitter @EligibleMonster and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single comic book. I'm Benny, and I'll see you guys next time right here.